They clapped for her like she was the sun itself. The applause shook the auditorium, but none of it was for me. Not one hand, not one cheer. I stood there, the diploma in my hand, my heart pounding, and something in me just snapped. For years, I watched my parents pour everything into her, my sister. Her music lessons, her summer camps, her dreams. While I worked nights, took out loans, and scraped together whatever I could to just stay afloat in school, they acted like I was invisible. And now, at graduation, the one day that was supposed to be mine, they showed up holding a giant sign with her name on it, as if I was just some background character in her movie. So I made a choice. I walked onto that stage, past the deans and counselors, and took the mic. Not to thank them, but to finally say what I'd been holding in for years. The crowd went silent. And what I said next changed everything. You want to know what could turn a graduation ceremony into a family earthquake? Yeah. You're gonna want to hear this. The microphone hummed, a low, almost comforting thrum against the sudden, absolute silence of the auditorium. 500 faces stared back at me, a sea of confusion and expectation. My parents, front row center, their smiles frozen, the giant, glittery sign with my sister's name, Melody, wobbling precariously in my father's grip. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. This was it. No turning back. I started, my voice cracking slightly, the sound amplified, echoing strangely in the vast space. I cleared my throat, took a deep breath, the metallic tang of the microphone suddenly sharp and unpleasant. I want to thank the Academy, for nothing. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief. My father's face flushed crimson. This wasn't the script. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. They'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in their heads, I was sure of it. Me, humbly accepting my diploma, thanking them, thanking my sister for her unwavering support I'd never actually received. But the script had been rewritten. For years, I continued, my voice gaining strength, fueled by a potent cocktail of resentment and adrenaline. I've watched my family pour all their resources, all their love, all their attention, into someone else's dream. My gaze locked onto Melody, who sat beside my parents, her perfectly coiffed hair shimmering under the stage lights. She looked surprised. Not hurt, not angry, just surprised. Like she'd never even considered the possibility that I might feel this way. And that, perhaps more than anything, fueled the fire in my belly. While I worked 2 jobs, took out crippling loans, and struggled just to keep my head above water, they cheered from the sidelines for her recitals, her competitions, her every whim. My voice rose, each word punctuated by the throbbing in my temples. And now, at my graduation, the one day that's supposed to be about me, they show up with a sign, with her name on it. I gestured towards the offending sign, now lying discarded at my father's feet. The silence in the auditorium was thick enough to choke on. I could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes on me, judging, analyzing, whispering. But I didn't care. I'd spent my entire life being invisible. Today, I was finally seen. So, no, I won't thank the Academy. I won't thank my family. I'll thank myself. For surviving. For persevering. For getting here despite everything. I held up my diploma, a flimsy piece of paper that suddenly felt heavier than it should. This is mine. I earned it. And no one can take that away from me. I dropped the microphone. The clatter echoed through the stunned silence. Then, chaos erupted. A cacophony of murmurs, gasps, and hushed whispers filled the air. I turned and walked off the stage, ignoring the calls of my name, the pleas from my parents, the bewildered look on my sister's face. I walked out of the auditorium and into the blinding sunlight, a strange sense of calm washing over me. It was over. I'd said my piece. But as I walked away, a strange feeling began to creep into the edges of my relief. It wasn't guilt, not exactly. It was more unsettling. A prickle of unease, like I'd forgotten something important. Something crucial. The feeling intensified as I reached my car. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking slightly. As I opened the car door, a small, folded piece of paper fell out from under the seat. I picked it up, my heart starting to pound again. It was a note, written in familiar, elegant handwriting. My sisters. Asterisk, meet me at the old pier tonight. Midnight. Don't tell anyone, asterisk. My breath caught in my throat. The old pier was a desolate, crumbling structure on the edge of town. Why would Melody want to meet me there? And at midnight? The unsettling feeling blossomed into full-blown anxiety. Something wasn't right. I glanced back at the auditorium, the sounds of the ceremony still faintly audible. Had I made a mistake? Had I unleashed something I couldn't control? The sunlight suddenly felt harsh, the air thick with a strange, oppressive weight. I had a sinking feeling that my graduation day earthquake was far from over. In fact, it might have just begun. The note felt heavy in my hand, a physical manifestation of the growing dread in my stomach. Midnight. The old pier. It was a place of shadows and whispers, a skeletal finger pointing out into the vast, indifferent ocean. A place where secrets went to die. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, the celebratory atmosphere of graduation day a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. My parents' attempts at reconciliation were met with a stony silence. Their hurt and confusion were palpable, but I couldn't bring myself to engage. The dam had burst, and the years of unspoken resentment were still flooding out, drowning out any other emotion. As evening approached, the anxiety intensified. I paced my room, the note clutched in my hand, rereading the simple, chilling words over and over. Don't tell anyone. Why the secrecy? What was Melody planning? The drive to the pier was a blur of flashing streetlights and racing thoughts. The closer I got, the more desolate the landscape became. Empty warehouses, boarded-up shops, the occasional stray dog scavenging through overflowing bins. The air was thick with the smell of salt and decay. The old pier loomed ahead, a jagged silhouette against the inky black sky. The wooden planks creaked and groaned under the weight of the wind, the sound amplified in the stillness of the night. I parked the car a safe distance away, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. As I approached the pier, I saw her. Melody. Standing at the very edge, her back to me, her silhouette outlined against the faint moonlight reflecting off the water. She was wearing a long, flowing white dress, which seemed to glow in the darkness. It was the same dress she'd worn for her final recital, the one that had earned her a standing ovation and a full scholarship to the prestigious music academy. The one I'd helped pay for by working double shifts at the diner. Melody. I called out, my voice trembling slightly. She turned slowly, her face pale and drawn in the moonlight. You came, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Of course, I came, I replied, my voice sharper than I intended. Why wouldn't I? What's going on? She didn't answer. Instead, she took a step closer to the edge of the pier, the wooden planks groaning ominously beneath her feet. My heart leaped into my throat. "Melody, what are you doing?" I asked, my voice laced with panic. She looked at me then, her eyes wide and filled with a strange mixture of sadness and something else. Something I couldn't quite decipher. Fear. Resignation. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the crashing waves. "I'm so sorry for everything." Before I could respond, before I could even process what she was saying, she did the unthinkable. She jumped. I watched in horror as she plunged into the dark, churning water below. The splash echoed through the stillness of the night, followed by an eerie silence. I stood there, frozen, my mind struggling to comprehend what had just happened. It felt like a nightmare, a surreal, slow-motion film playing out before my eyes. Then, the screams started. My screams. I ran to the edge of the pier, peering down into the darkness. The water was black, impenetrable. I couldn't see her. I called her name, over and over, my voice raw with desperation. But there was no answer. Only the relentless crashing of the waves against the pilings. The next few hours were a blur of flashing lights, sirens, and the cold, clinical questions of the police. They dredged the water, but they found nothing. Melody was gone. The guilt was a crushing weight, suffocating me. Had my words driven her to this? Had my outburst at the graduation ceremony been the final straw? The thought was unbearable. As the days turned into weeks, the search was called off. Melody was officially declared missing, presumed dead. The media had a field day, painting me as the villain, the jealous brother who had pushed his talented sister to the brink. My parents, consumed by grief, barely spoke to me. I was alone, adrift in a sea of guilt and regret. One evening, while sifting through Melody's belongings, I found a small, locked box hidden under her bed. After some effort, I managed to pry it open. Inside, I found a stack of letters, tied together with a faded ribbon. They were addressed to me. With trembling hands, I unfolded the first letter. The familiar, elegant handwriting swam before my eyes. "Dear brother," it began, "if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I'm so sorry for the pain this will cause you, but I can't go on anymore. The truth is..." My breath caught in my throat. The truth. What truth? I turned the page, my heart pounding in my chest. And as I read the words that followed, the world as I knew it shattered into a million pieces. The secrets revealed in those letters were far more complex, far more sinister, than I could have ever imagined. My graduation day outburst hadn't been the beginning of the earthquake. It had been a mere tremor, a foreshock to the devastating seismic shift that was about to unravel my entire family. Melody's suicide wasn't an act of despair. It was a carefully orchestrated escape. An escape from a truth so dark, so twisted, that it threatened to consume us all. And now, I was left to pick up the pieces, to confront the monstrous secrets that lurked beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect lives. Secrets that Melody had taken to her watery grave. Secrets that I now had to uncover, no matter the cost. The truth, as Melody laid it out in her letters, was a cruel, twisted parody of the life I thought I knew. Our parents, the seemingly perfect couple, were anything but. Their marriage was a facade, a carefully constructed performance for the benefit of the outside world. Behind closed doors, it was a battleground of resentment, infidelity, and unspoken bitterness. And Melody, their golden child, their prodigy, was caught in the crossfire. The letters detailed years of emotional manipulation, of being forced to play the role of the perfect daughter to maintain the fragile peace. The pressure to succeed, the constant comparisons to me, the subtle jabs about my perceived lack of ambition, it had all been a calculated strategy to keep her trapped, to ensure her continued compliance in their charade. The music, her supposed passion, had become a gilded cage, a symbol of her captivity. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Melody hadn't jumped. She'd swam. She'd planned her escape meticulously, faking her suicide to break free from the suffocating grip of our family's toxic dynamics. The white dress, the dramatic setting, it was all part of the act, a final, defiant performance designed to shatter the illusion of perfection and force me to confront the truth. The letters went on to explain that she'd been secretly saving money for years, stashing it away in a hidden account. She'd arranged for a new identity, a new life, far away from the suffocating confines of our town, our family. She'd even left instructions for me, a series of cryptic clues leading to a safety deposit box containing enough money to start my own life anew. As I read the final letter, a strange mix of emotions washed over me. Relief, anger, sadness, and a grudging admiration for my sister's courage. She'd done what I'd never been able to do, she'd broken free. She'd chosen her own path, even if it meant leaving me behind to deal with the wreckage. The clues she'd left were intricate, a scavenger hunt through our shared childhood memories. Each clue led to another, unraveling a hidden narrative of our lives, a secret language only we understood. It was as if she was speaking to me from beyond the grave, guiding me, pushing me to finally take control of my own destiny. The final clue led me to a small, unassuming bank in a neighboring town. Inside the safety deposit box, I found not only the money but also one last letter, a postscript to her story. In it, she urged me to forgive our parents, not for their sake, but for mine. She wrote about the importance of letting go of the past, of building a future free from the shadows of their mistakes. It was a difficult task, perhaps the most difficult I'd ever faced. But as I stood there, holding that letter, I realized that Melody was right. Holding on to the anger, the resentment, would only continue to poison me. I had to let go. I had to forgive. Not for them, but for me. The process of healing was slow, arduous. I confronted my parents, laid bare the truth of Melody's letters, watched as their carefully constructed world crumbled around them. There were tears, recriminations, and a painful, drawn-out reckoning. But in the end, there was also a glimmer of understanding, a fragile hope for a different kind of future. I used the money Melody left me to start my own business, a small cafe in a quiet, seaside town far from the suffocating memories of my childhood. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. And in the quiet moments, as I watched the waves crash against the shore, I felt a sense of peace I'd never known before. One evening, as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the beach, I saw a familiar figure walking towards the cafe. A woman with long, flowing hair, wearing a simple, white dress. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be? As she drew closer, I saw the faintest hint of a smile on her face. It was her. Melody. Alive. She didn't say anything. She just walked up to me, wrapped her arms around me, and held me tight. And in that embrace, I felt the weight of the past finally lift, replaced by a sense of hope, of forgiveness, of a future we could now face together. The secrets were out. The truth had been revealed. And finally, after all the pain, the lies, the betrayals, we were free. The cafe became our sanctuary, a place where we could rebuild our relationship, brick by fragile brick. We talked for hours, days, weeks, filling in the gaps, sharing the stories of our separate journeys. She told me about the challenges of building a new life, the fear of being discovered, the constant looking over her shoulder. I told her about the guilt, the anger, the slow, painful process of forgiveness. We learned to lean on each other, to support each other, in ways we never had before. The resentment that had festered between us for so long finally dissolved, replaced by a deep, abiding love and respect. We were no longer rivals, but allies, bound by a shared history, a shared trauma, and a shared determination to build a better future. The past still casts a long shadow, a reminder of the pain we endured, the lies we believed, the secrets that almost destroyed us. But now, we face that shadow together. We are no longer defined by the mistakes of our parents, by the toxic dynamics of our family. We are free to write our own story, to create our own destiny. And in that freedom, we have found something truly precious, a bond that is stronger, deeper, and more meaningful than anything we could have ever imagined. If you enjoyed this story of family secrets, hidden truths, and the enduring power of forgiveness, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more captivating narratives. Hit the like button to show your support and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next upload. Every week, we delve into the complexities of human relationships, exploring the dark corners of the human heart and the resilience of the human spirit. Join us as we unravel the mysteries that bind us, the secrets that define us, and the stories that connect us all.